Hi everyone, it's Danielle. And so, welcome to Cosmic Co-working. This is a space where not only are you able to take time out of your everyday life and cut back from some of the noise and the distractions, a place to work on your intentions and get more clear on what it is that you want to move forward, it's also a place to bring your nervous system in alignment with what it is that you're doing. Because it's super important to not procrastinate, to sit down and actually do the things that you've been wanting to do, to tend to your to-do list, to prioritize accordingly. However, something happens a lot of the times when we start to move forward. Our nervous system, our old patterns, prior versions of ourselves want to come in. They want to come in and help. They want to come in and go back to what's familiar. They want to go in and say, oh, yeah, okay, well, that's great that you're doing all of this, but like, this is kind of a lot. Do we really want to be doing this? Should you be doing this? And so we want to create that sweet spot of continuing to move forward, continuing to take action in the way that's necessary, and then also noticing when the older systems that you used to operate on are trying to come into the picture. Because one of the things that gets missed a lot when we're sitting and we're visualizing and we're crafting our dream life, which can be really fun and it's supposed to be fun. There's a reason why when we get a juicy download, there's a reason why when we like picture our bigger reality, it's fun, it's exciting, we can see it, we know it's true, we know it exists in some realm, in some reality, and that really excites us. It lights up our soul, and we're like, yes, I'm in alignment, I'm on the right track, this is who I'm becoming. Yay. And then all of a sudden, we kind of land back into the present, back into the reality. And we're met with, well, how does this come together? How does this come to fruition? How do I bring in the money and the resources and the things that I need for this to grow? And then we start to go into that space of, okay, well, I just have to think it and then I'll become it. Or I just have to keep like visualizing it over and over and over again. And it will eventually become my reality, right? But then it starts to feel more like a fantasy. And so why are we living in this like fantasy land with something that felt really good and real at one time now just feels like something we're disconnected from and we fantasize about, but it doesn't actually happen. And because it's not happening, then we're defaulting and going to the old programming again. It's like, well, the new version isn't coming in, so I might as well just go back to being the old version because that's the only thing I know. But then we go back to being the old version. The old version doesn't really seem to want to comply with the current you either. So that's where habits come in. Habits are the little game changers, are the little fine tuning, if you will, to allow the person that you are becoming to show up. Because what you're doing is every morning when you wake up, you get to decide. I am stepping deeper into my future self, and I am stepping further away from my past self. As much as I would love for us to just shift timelines and boop, I'm the new self, it doesn't always work that way. We have to slowly leave the past self behind as we also slowly step into the future self that we're becoming. And so, in order to do that, we have to make choices within our day-to-day lives that support the future self. And we have to ask ourselves in certain moments, is this choice coming from the person I am becoming? Or is this choice coming from someone that is no longer someone I want to continue to exist as? And so habits become this really nice way or a gateway to keep moving forward. So habits are usually tied to a goal. When I do this, it supports that. When I make this shift, it helps me in this way. And we can look at it really linear, like in a really linear way, right? Like I wake up and I go for a walk. And by going for a walk, it's going to help me with my health goals. Great. But we could also look at it as the future version of me. Well, why is that important? What does that have? Why does taking a walk and having goals to be healthier, what does that have to do with anything? Well, clearly that must be tied to the person that you're leaning into. And you know that in taking this step forward, and it'll help you be healthier, but it also models the way that your future self operates, right? So it's not just about having the vision, but it's looking at the lifestyle and the behaviors of your future self. So when you start to look at the behavior and the changes that they make, my future self goes for a walk every morning because it's not only good for my physical health, but it's also good for my mental health. And it keeps me away from my phone first thing in the morning and allows me to gather my thoughts. And it does all these things that are really beautiful. Well, doing that is symbolic for saying, I'm stepping into the future, right? And we can start to look at other habits in that way as well, noticing, okay, my future self doesn't just scroll on their phone first thing in the morning and then lose sight of what it is that I want to accomplish. My future version of self doesn't tend to things in this way. My future version of self isn't jumping to fix everything right away, in the hopes that maybe that will somehow solve their own problems. And so it's using discernment. And so it's going to take discernment and behavior modification and leaning on this idea of habits to allow the new self to formulate, right? And that's what I believe is the ticket to manifestation. We manifest the things we want, not just because we see them. That's the starting point. Oh, I see this is possible. I feel this is possible. I look up to it in my meditation and I know it's true. And then it's about creating the habits and the behaviors and the modifications necessary so that you can be in that identity of the future self and being okay with some of the things that might have to get left behind. Some people may view you a little bit different. Some people may say you're changing. And you're like, yeah, I am. That's exactly what's happening, right? When have you ever tried to do something different and then other people get disruptive about it, or other people get confused about it, or other people are like, why are you changing? And it's like, thank you for that evidence. Thank you for showing me that, yes, in fact, I am changing. I am moving forward. Thank you for seeing that in me. And I'm not losing sight of the love that's in me. I'm not losing sight of our connection. But there may be some adaptation that needs to happen on your part as I continue to move forward in this way. So the goal of our what I was feeling for us to call into today was to really sink into this notion of not only what are my intentions of what I want to accomplish over this next hour, how can I also lean into the idea of fruitful habits that support my future self. I'm not just doing them because I'm supposed to. I'm not just doing them because back in the day when we were taught habits or we were taught, okay, if you do this, you get a sticker. And if you get 5 stickers, then you get a reward. We're not doing this for reward. We're doing this to reflect who we're becoming. And that is way more rewarding than like I have to do this because then reward sometimes has power over you, right? And you're like, I have to do this so that I can get this. And then if I don't do that, then I won't get this. And it's more just like, no, how am I reflecting on who I am and who I am becoming and what it is that I desire? What is that version of me like? What do they do on a day-to-day basis? What led them here? What changes did they make? And further, what do having habits mean for them? And how can those habits be integrated in such a way that it supports who you're becoming and it also supports your system now? So you can actually be stable in the field that you're in. Because a lot of times why manifestations also don't work is because we're bouncing back and forth. I'm over here and I want this, but now I'm back over here. And the field isn't stable and the signals that you're sending are erratic. Right. So you're sending erratic signals. And so then what's happening is you're signaling to the universe, I don't know who I am right now. I would love for you to show me. And the universe is like, the only thing I can show you is that you don't know who you are right now. The only thing I can show you is that you're over here and then you're over there and you're over here and then you're over there. That's all I can show you. So you have to show yourself, I am who I am in this moment. And I recognize the signal that I'm sending out into who I'm becoming. And when the old version of me wants to show up, I can say, I'm not entertaining this version of me. I'm not going to condition my behavior to modify it, to soothe and condition that old part of me to come back in. I'm going to see what it's trying to do, and I'm going to say, no, 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 we're not repeating that pattern. We're not going to stay stuck in that loop. This does not represent who I am now and the gateway to who I'm becoming. And that's the real work, if you will. That's also the real medicine. That's the antidote. And why so often we're not getting to where we need to be is partly because we're not sitting down to do it. But sometimes we don't even know what we're sitting down to actually do, and we don't know what signal we're actually sending. So this is about coming into a space of what would it be like to stabilize in the knowing of who I am currently and the field that represents my becoming. So with that, we're going to drop into a meditation and go a little bit deeper on this notion. If it's available, you can just go ahead and drop your hands in your lap, palms open, close the eyes. And from here, let's just take some deep, heavy sighs, breathing in through the nose. Big sigh out. Let's do that a couple more times. Breathing in through the nose. And as you breathe in, I want you to feel as if you are breathing in that becoming, breathing in that notion that things are getting better, that things are expanding. And then as you exhale out, you're exhaling out the relief, the release of that old self, of that life quake that had to happen to rock your world enough to get you exactly where you need to be. And then let's do that one more time. Nice inhale in, inhaling the knowing, the trust. Exhaling out the old, the tired, the complete. And then let's move into a more simple breath. Inhaling in as an opportunity to connect deeper with that knowing inside of you, that part of you that does feel stable, that part of you that does feel assured, that part of you that feels like you can do anything. And maybe that part feels a little fragile, or maybe it still feels a little unsure. That's okay. Just let yourself be with it. And then as you exhale out, let that space open up a little bit more, giving this part of you more permission to take up more room, to take up more space. And just continuing to use the breath to inhale, the soul focus, coming back to that deeper part of you that is knowing, that you can trust, even if you don't always do it. And then using that exhale to release, to make space, to open up room. With every inhale, connecting a little deeper to the source of who you are and who you're becoming. And every exhale, edging out the ego, edging out the part of you that dwells in the past from an existence that you no longer choose to operate under. And just continue to breathe in and breathe out in this way. And as you continue to move through the breath, I want you to feel your body begin to relax, feel your being get lighter, to feel more at ease, to recognize there is nothing you need to worry about. There is nothing you need to go off and take care of. You can just be here, present, right now. And as you sit in this present moment, sitting with who you are, I also want you to invite in who you are becoming. That future version of you that you are stepping into. Feeling their open heart, feeling their strength, feeling their sweetness and playfulness, and also feeling their assurance. Feeling their rootedness and devotion. There is no confusion. There's no instability. There's this clear, open, loving nature. And as that is being reflected towards you, this version of you comes and sits next to you. And as I sit next to you, I want you to imagine you both are in a field together. Could be a literal grassy field, could be a electric, energetic one. But as you sit in this field together, I want you to notice what it represents. How it represents who you truly are. What you're actually capable of. That it represents security and nurture and support. There's this belief that you came here with nothing, and yet you would be provided with everything. However, because of the way that our society operates, it has made it feel like you have to do everything just to get a little something. But what if that simply weren't true? What if there was a knowing that as you take space to be in the stillness, to simply sit in the field, everything can come about? And as you sit in that notion, I want you to feel the foundation underneath you begin to firm up, begin to solidify. What would it feel like to be rooted and grounded in this knowing that you are fully and completely taken care of? Everything is being worked out. What would it feel like to wake up every morning with the knowing that everything is already taken care of? So, what actions do you take accordingly? Doesn't mean you just sit around and do nothing. It means that you get to be in this beautiful co-creation, this collaboration together where everything is taken care of, and then you do what you need to accordingly. And it's that simple. And then you go to bed and you get to do it all over again. You were always taken care of. You were always supported. And so you have the wherewithal and the understanding and the knowing of the actions and the behavior and the habits that go with that. They go hand in hand. God hands you the resources you need, and then you take them and you do something with them. And you trust that. What would it feel for it to be that simple? And when we think of that simplicity, what does that frequency feel like? What is its essence? And notice if any words come through. Could feel like peace, ease, love. And as you lean into those sensations, I want you to notice if there's any parts from your past that would want to take that away. I want you to recognize that those parts of yourself served a purpose, but they are no longer on purpose. Thank you for the lessons, but we are complete. And I want you to notice when that character wants to come back and sabotage and destroy and not believe. You simply let it know, not now, not here, not ever. And you go back to yourself and you go back to what it is that you are building with God, that you are sourcing with the universe, that you are stepping into as your higher self that you are becoming. And so as we sit here in this frequency, as we sit here in the foundation that is your field, start to think about your intentions for our time together today. What is it that you would like to accomplish? What is it that you'd like to move through in this really safe, supported space? And just notice, lean in if your future self has any input. Take a nice, deep, big smile in gratitude for having the opportunity to be here, to have this awareness, to have this realization, to have this support. Welcoming in any guides or angels that want to be part of our process. And looking to whatever it is that we accomplish in our time together to work. There is no judgment. There is no skepticism. There is no right or wrong. There is simply doing in response to what it is that you know to be true. Flip your hands so that your palms are now rooted into your skin, into your legs, your thighs. Roll your shoulders back. Take a nice Big, hearty inhale. Send it all the way down to the root. Hold it there. Deep exhale out. One more time. Nice big inhale in. Hold and release. And gently just sweeping your hands to the side, maybe giving your body a little shimmy before you open your eyes and come back in. All right, so we're going to use this momentum to work for the next 50 minutes. So that puts us at math. Yeah, that puts us at 1:15. Right. Yes, 1:15. 1:15 EST. So we'll come back in. I'm going to play some music, set a little timer, and then feel free to share in the chat something that you'd like to work on. And let's stay in this really beautiful, dedicated space. Yay.